U.S. election campaign is into its final 100 days, and after President Biden's exit, everything points to a matchup between Democrat Kamala Harris and Republican Donald Trump. The Democratic campaign stands reinvigorated with a record funds collected in the last week alone as Team Trump turns up the heat. Here's more.
Harris presidency means 4 more years of extremism, weakness, failure, chaos, and probably World War III. I really believe it. They have no, that's why this happened today in Israel. Shocking that it happened out of nowhere.
And you may have noticed Donald Trump has been resorting to some wild lies about my record, and some of what he and his running mate are saying, well, it's just plain weird.
The gloves are off. Barbs and jibes, a vicious war of words, and some hitting below the belt is the order of the day. Into the last 100 days in the race for the White House, the battle has crystallized. With Biden bowing out, Kamala Harris has hit the ground running. She's won the support of the Obamas and Clintons and top Democrats.
Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you.
The party has collected a record $200 million in the last week. 170,000 new volunteers have signed up. And most worrying for the Republican camp, Kamala Harris shows signs of nudging ahead in polls too. A Reuters Ipsos poll says Harris leads Trump 44 to 42 percentage points among registered voters.
He is now holding the American people hostage over a vanity project that he calls a wall, while 800,000 people are trying to figure out how they're going to pay their rent, how they're going to pay their mortgage. It is completely irresponsible. And those folks don't want a wall, they want a paycheck.
This image, Trump posted an assassination attempt on him, pumping his fist, mouthing fight, suddenly seems to be history. Are there signals that Biden's exit that Trump had long been baying for has suddenly wrong-footed him? There's a sense that a desperation is showing.
Christians, get out and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed, it'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian.
100 days and counting, a neck-and-neck race to perhaps the most consequential election on the planet. There's still multiple ways this election could go. Analysts and soothsayers are on overdrive. The world watches with bated breath. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
All right, we are now joined by Jeffrey Kaba-Service, Vice President of Political Studies at the Niskanen Center. Welcome to WION this morning. So we have exactly 100 days to the election. Some believe that President Biden's exit from the race, even though it wasn't surprising, has given Kamala Harris a strategic advantage. Are Republicans scrambling to adjust their approach, even though former President Donald Trump anticipated something like this may be happening?
Thank you. It's good to be here. I'm not sure that Donald Trump did anticipate that Joe Biden would drop out of the race. I think the Republican team is scrambling right now because so much of their attack had been geared toward portraying Biden as old, feeble, out of touch, and Trump as comparatively energetic. And now the tables have been turned on them. Kamala Harris is almost 2 decades younger than Donald Trump. She is vastly more articulate than Joe Biden was. She is very capable of making a case for the Democrats. And so far, the Republicans seem to be struggling to respond. And I think that they want to attack her record as progressive. She has to define herself before they're able to define her. But at the same time, there's also some pretty ugly stuff coming out of right-wing world in terms of painting her as a DEI candidate, playing upon racial and gender issues. I think it's going to be an ugly campaign.
Can you give us a sense of where the two stand? What works for and against the former president and for and against Kamala Harris? And how do these candidates hope to win the hearts and minds of independent voters?
So Donald Trump has a number of advantages. His followers love him. I would say they almost have a quasi-religious veneration for him, particularly after the assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania. And Republicans also have some strategic advantages when it comes to the electoral colleges mechanisms. They dominate the rural states that count disproportionately in that constitutional means of determining who gets to win the presidency. On the Democratic side, they've had a lot of negatives lately with really low voter enthusiasm for Joe Biden's candidacy, but now that's all very much been turned around by Kamala Harris's succeeding Biden as the nominee or apparent nominee. And as your viewers will have heard, there have been record donations and numbers of volunteers, and there's a real regeneration of enthusiasm, particularly among the Democratic base voters, young people, minorities, who really had not seemed that enthusiastic about the Biden candidacy. However, what the Harris campaign will need to do to win is to win over at least some of those white working class voters who had voted for Joe Biden, particularly in the swing states, but now seem inclined to not vote or maybe to vote for Donald Trump. And that very much includes independents. So I think Harris is going to actually have to disavow some of her previously progressive positions, which are very unpopular with those independent voters. And I think she needs to be strategic in making her choice of a vice presidential candidate, probably a white male from the relatively moderate part of the Democratic Party, who can win over some of those swing state voters.
Right. Well, it seems like the media loves her, and she has a lot of help, at least on that front, here in the United States. Mr. Jeffrey Kaba-Service, thank you so much for joining us on WION, and I look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
Thank you.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.